what's cracking, y'all? It's Russell and Hunter's The Brewmance on a April Fool's Day. No, we're not going to go all progressive platform and be all dumb like we changed our. No, it's April Fool's Day. You know it's April Fool's Day. And it's a little late in the day, by the way, so everybody's already cracked one on you, so we're not going to try to get you. But he's Rob, I'm Mike. Joining us very shortly will be the return of Congressman David Schweikert. So excited about that because I got some questions. I almost said, Biden again. Okay, I'll say it. Biden has a budget that's been proposed, and I want to know what you spend $7.4 trillion on. I would really like to know what you spend $7.4 trillion on. What's up, bud?
Yeah, winning elections. Giving it to your buddies, winning elections. Life is good.
Right. So when David joins us, he's going to take us inside the swampiest of the swamp to answer our questions about that. And, hey, appreciate that, Greg. Good to see you, bud. And look at this. I want to quickly, before Congressman gets here, I want to talk quickly. Just a question I have about this bridge gate, not the Chris Christie bridge gate. I mean the bridge that went down. And a lot of I wouldn't even say conspiracy theories, because I don't believe that if you question what your government has told you, that's a conspiracy theory. It's actually quite healthy to ask and question why your government did or said what they said. That doesn't make you a conspiracy theorist. That makes you American. So I have a question. The ship hits the bridge collapses. Immediately, you get the Pentagon out there saying, no active terror. There's no evidence at all. Nothing is no. We have no evidence that anything that happened. Biden comes out the same day. The government is going to pay 100% of the repair of the bridge and good American union jobs. Did anyone call the ship's insurance company? Why do I have to pay for this? Forget about the whole act of terror and all this. Forget about that right now. Right now, I can't afford groceries, and you're telling me that I'm going to go pay for a bridge with my tax dollars, and the insurance company isn't going to pay for it? What happened to your buddy Obama? Remember, Obama was going to keep the boots on their necks, make sure they pay. Okay, why isn't the ship company paying if something isn't on the up and up?
Probably because it wouldn't pay. I mean, the insurance company wouldn't pay because it would cost millions and millions of dollars. So like, we would bankrupt ourselves. I'm going to guess that that's what the excuse is.
They didn't have seriously, I've been on hold with my insurance company longer than they had to come out and say that they were going to pay for the whole thing. So I'm not going to buy into the insurance company wouldn't pay, because the insurance company hadn't even been contacted at this point. But
was bridge collapse covered in the policy? Nope, I don't see that provision in here, ship company.
Let me tell you something. If it were Trump shipping, exactly. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying here. This is absolute. I'm not paying for it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't know how the hell we pay for it. That is the dumbest thing in the planet. But it's going to be, once again, 500 union jobs are going to be rebuilding that bridge. I tell you, 500 union jobs. It's just dumb.
But see, that completes the puzzle. And why I stopped getting outraged about these things is because they've been happening since 1789. Because this is what your government does. So for me, I just shake my head at it and go, yep, of course that's what's happening, because that's what we keep voting for. The same people over and over again who think that they're heroes, and spending your money somehow gives them a hero complex. It's very strange, but that's America.
Scotty coming with it.
Scott.
Yeah, so yeah, the bridge had some info on the Clintons.
By the way, Scotty Scott says first time catching a live show with us. So Scotty, welcome.
All right.
Appreciate you being here.
We got a first timer here. I love that. All right. And yes, of course, David, we're going to talk about that, because okay, let me give you my thoughts on it from the good old Christian boy here. And no, that doesn't mean I don't sin. That means I need some Jesus, because I do sin. So that's what that is. So, he's Christian. He does this, that, and the other thing. Okay, whatever. Here's the deal. Celebrate Easter it's basically the Christian Super Bowl is what it is. That's the big day. It's bigger than Christmas. If you study the faith, that is the cornerstone of the entire religion. So the Christ resurrection centerpiece, that's it. Cornerstone, most important part. For the White House to come out and make it the transgender day of vision or something like that. I don't think it was observance. It was the transgender day of this, that, and the other thing. At first I said, yeah, boy, I don't like that. Then I said, Here's what's going on. So I go onto the tweet machine, I go online, and I see a lot of us as Christians losing our bleeping mind about it. I see politicians, conservative politicians, losing their bleeping mind about it. This is just goading us into that exact response so they can say, look at these transphobes over here won't give anybody they can't even have a day of observance or whatever the heck it is. It was goading, and a lot of us took the bait. I decided just to stay shut up about it.
Sometimes silence is the best option. Sometimes it is, because this is also an appeal to young voters. Young voters, if people are under 30, they really care about trans lives matters, whatever. They care about these types of things. They do.
I just, the way you said it was funny.
I know. But just because we don't doesn't mean it's not political. And there was something that happened to me when I looked at everything as political moves that allowed me to not get mad at everything, to understand. Because if you talk to anyone under 30, the first issue they care about is trans rights, because they have 15 friends that are they, thems.
Magically.
So, yeah, and that, well, and it is what it is. Like, us complaining about it doesn't make the problem go away, the challenge go away. It makes the challenge for the Biden administration more upfront and apparent to me. So I look at it the opposite way, and I say, Biden's doing this because he knows his position is weak with young voters. So what we're going to see over the next series of months is moves like this by the Biden team to get young people fired up to vote. So our job is to remind young voters the worst of the worst is happening to you because your politicians are lying to your face simply to get you to go to the polls. They don't care about your trans issues and trans rights. They care about you voting for them. So they'll say they care about trans rights, because watch what happens. You'll see the same thing that happens to you that's happened to all of us that are above 40. Nothing actually happens in Washington. They just lie to get you to the polls. They don't change anything. Little by little, maybe here or there, you get a little victory. But it's never the big sweeping promises that are coming to America if you vote for me. So it's all a ruse, is the way I look at it.
Trans folks did any of these politicians have at their Easter barbecue? Yeah, exactly. It's all a show. It's all to goad us conservatives into looking like we hate people. That's it. And that's fine. Here's the deal. You want to go Christian? You want to go Bible right now? I'll go Bible with you right now. Toe for toe right now. Because if Jesus was at my barbecue, trans people showed up to the barbecue, guess who'd be totally okay with it? Jesus, right? So instead of, oh my gosh, that stupid White House trying to just crap all over my holiday, instead of go, yeah, okay, cool. We're down with them. Let's go. That's a great day to have it. As a matter of fact, we love everyone because Christ loved everyone. So there you go. How about that? See, that's kind of the end around, not playing their little goading games.
Well, and that is a fair point, right? Because if you're going to come at me and you're going to preach Jesus, you better be trying to act like Jesus yourself. You better not be judging people and pointing out how people are sinners and wrong and immoral and all these things. It's not very Jesus-like.
You got this wrong, Rep. You got this wrong. You see, we have Jesus because we know that. We have Jesus like me. Judgment is my spiritual gift. It's okay. And that's why I need me some Jesus. It's all good. Yeah, we're not trying to beat Jesus. We're just like, oh, okay, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
But I thought the whole point was to be more like Jesus. Yeah.
What's that?
Well, here's one big thing.
Well, it's like Toby Keith, God rest his soul. It's like Toby Keith said he was asked by Bill Maher why he's a Christian. And he said, well, one, because my mama's watching. And he said, and two, just in case.
What a cop out.
I mean, it was beautiful. He's like, what, come on. What do you got to lose, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and this is what I would say. One of the things I think is so great about Jesus is he accepted reality as it is. The world is not the way you want it to be. The world is the way that it is. Now, if you want to change the world that's around you, it takes time. You're not going to all of a sudden take a 14-year-old who was born female, identifies as a male, and in 5 seconds convert them back to being a female. It takes time. It takes effort. So the judgment is cool, but it doesn't really move the needle. And I think that's the point of yesterday, Mike, of Easter is, okay, here's a Jesus, God's son, who died for our sins, resurrects to all give us hope and a chance that, we can live life closer to that rather than not.
I'm just gonna keep judging. I got me some Jesus. I'm good. Hey, there's a guy in the little virtual waiting room over here that is way overdressed. That is so overdressed. I actually, can we just put him on just audio alone? Wow. Back to the program. It is the Congressman David Schweikert, and we love having you here.
Just because I put on a jacket.
What? Exactly. Come on.
I didn't want you to see that I have some of my lunch on my shirt. So.
Oh, okay. Fair. So good to see you again, sir, and thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
For my tardiness, the chaos of the normal day.
It's okay. You are a congressman and whatnot. So I want to jump off, if we could, with something very puzzling to me and troubling to me. That is that we have a White House that has proposed I think it's 7.4 trillion. I think at this point we're to the Looney Tunes phase where it's 1 trillion simoleons or 1 trillion simoleons. It doesn't even make sense.
Stop making fun of simoleons.
Yeah, what's that?
Stop making fun of simoleons.
Okay, not Somalians, simoleons.
Whatever.
Get me in trouble. But here's the deal, though. So if it's over $7 trillion and everybody's clutching their pearls and how terrible this is, oh my goodness, that's absurd. These bozos knock it down to $5.5 trillion. Like, woohoo! Look what we did. We cut our budget by $2.5 trillion, and we seem to be okay with that as we the people. Is this even a starter?
All right, back to some fun with actual math. President makes a proposal, and even the Democrats just roll their eyes at it because it was a budget that was a campaign instrument. It wasn't real. It's basically in some ways to buy the love of different groups that contribute to the Democrats, saying, look, I propose to give you guys lots of money. Please now support the Democrats and write them checks. So it's not exactly pay for play. It's sort of pay for future ambitions.
Okay.
Look, back to sort of the core of what's going on. Interest now is consuming us. Healthcare costs, because of our demographics, are consuming us. We'll spend 1.1 trillion in interest this year. Just interest. And so, for those people that subscribe, like every day we send out a text message. Do you guys both get it? My daily debt?
I get them. Yes. Correct.
I climb up to the roof every day, Congressman, and I debate whether or not I should take the plunge or not.
So bad.
Oddly enough, apparently it's not recommended if you have a fragile mental health situation to get the daily debt from me. So we have a few thousand people now get this. It's an automated text message my economist put together where we reach over to the Treasury Department and look at the daily spending, both in the fiscal year and then to use the full calendar year. And the reason we do the whole full calendar year is it gets rid of the little games that the administration did, like, we're going to borrow $400 million in student loans, and then the Supreme Court says they can't do it. So they credited themselves back, but they did it the next fiscal year. And so you got to be very careful of all these sort of budgetary gimmicks. We're getting close to borrowing $100,000 every second. Every second.
Okay.
And here's what we can't get our heads around. The administration, typically Office of Management Budget, is at least fairly honest with their numbers. And they're missing what we're calculating as the borrowing by 8, 9, maybe $1 trillion, 800 billion, 900 billion. So unless they're assuming there's going to be this massive tax collections this month, I'm really stressed out about this. So this is back to you and your Somalians.
Somalians.
What the hell?
Not Somalians. You're getting me in trouble.
But the point I'm going at, economy is okay. GDP growth, now a lot of it's because of all that government stimulus. So it's sugar being, when you're giving billions and billions of dollars to private companies, chip companies, and all these others. So GDP growth is fairly solid, and yet the borrowing is still exploding. That should let you understand how how much structural trouble we're in. And if you live in a fantasy saying, hey, the interest rates are going to go back down. No, they're not. We're just going back to normal. It's the last decade that was the fraud. We're not even at nominal. If you remove the last decade of artificially low interest rates and do like the last 35 years, we're not even as high as they should be.
Why is, I'm sorry, real quick, Rob, why is it when you said it's artificially low? What does that mean when you say artificially low?
Remember, after the Great Recession, as we all call it, you started to have your recovery, and the federal government started to raise, or the Fed started to raise interest rates, and they got this horrible reaction. And they did this quantitative easing where they would buy the government bonds, they would buy mortgage-backed securities. They were functionally pumping in huge amounts. So we were like doubling, tripling the US monetary supply to keep interest rates very, 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 very low. Now, we paid a price when the Democrats decided to spend another $1.2 trillion in handouts. At that point, then there was dramatically more money than things to buy. You set off inflation, because you did that at the same time you had some of the supply chain issues, and boom, most of America today is poorer today than they were 3 years ago. But the fact of the matter is, the previous decade, those interest rates weren't the true cost of money.
So let's bring it back to today. Yeah, we have $3 trillion in borrowing over the course of a year. Congressman, how does that even work? How is the White House able to borrow money that the House of Representatives, of which you're in, supposedly controls the purse strings of the nation? How does the White House get away with this?
Because the White House actually has the ability to issue bonds, and your federal government functionally hands out money that people want. Look, this is the hardest thing, and this is the thing I take the most inbound hatred from, is telling the truth. The vast majority of U.S. government spending is your earned benefits. You earned your Medicare. That's the deal. Though the problem is, for every dollar you put in, you functionally get $5 back. For Social Security, now Social Security still is on its trust fund. So Social Security lives on today's tax collections and then a little bit of the trust fund every month. That trust fund is going away. So in 8-9 years, the trust fund is gone. And if you live just on monthly cash flow from FICA tax collections, you get a 25% cut. We double senior poverty. So if you just take healthcare costs and the growth of interest, just those are what drives your debt today. Think about what it's going to look like 9-10 years from now if we have to also backfill Social Security. And I've done multiple presentations showing that the left's suggestion saying, okay, just raise the cap on Social Security, that takes care of Social Security. It doesn't even cover, covers 40% of the problem, 30% of the problem, the shortfall. There just isn't an understanding of the scale of how much trouble we're in. You cannot actually tax the rich and get close to covering what's necessary. Forgive me for rambling, but if anyone actually wants to engage in some intellectual honesty, go on the internet. Brian Riedel, Manhattan Institute, did an article several months ago, took lots of even left-wing literature, and said, what would happen if you took $400,000 and up income earners, maximize their estate tax, maximize their income tax, maximize their capital gains, just tax maximize everything. Adjust for the economic effect, you get about a 1.5% of GDP. We're borrowing 9.6% of GDP this year. Math problem.
Okay, but understand. So we hear that. We the people hear that, and to be honest, eyes go, okay, fine, okay, but I paid $200 for Easter dinner yesterday, and I just had ham and deviled eggs, and it was it almost broke me. That's what I am. That's what I am having a problem with. When I hear bozos like Janet Yellen out there saying, like, we don't need the prices to come down because wages are going up. And I'm absolutely blown away by how we're being spoken to as a we the people, even when it comes to our real concerns that we have. We want you up there, David. We want you up there, Congressman, to worry about those big high things. But right now, my grocery bills are out of bleeping control.
Look, for those of us who live in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, unless you've had a 23.6% wage increase since the day President Biden took office, 23.6, you are poor today. And if you're on the younger side, where more your consumption is in housing and those sorts of things, you are substantially poor. And there's the problem is across the country, I think the mean is the average working class individual is about 7% poor today. That means at the end of the month, life is more miserable. And that's part of I try to explain. You want to know why people are cranky and stressed out, and some of the American politics seems so, so much friction, is take 100 million Americans and make them poorer. Now, my problem is I have to actually come up with actual solutions to fix it. I can't do what so many of my political friends do, which they whine and moan and get you all excited and do the dopamine hit of crazy things we say. And then when the speech is over, there wasn't a single solution actually woven into it that actually works. There are solutions. The window is closing very fast. One of my economists says, if you don't do some major policy changes in the next 3 to 5 years, you basically have a country that the bond market will be in charge of the government, because they will decide what the price of our money is, and they will decide what we can finance.
Okay. So let's talk about some of these solutions, Congressman, because if we have a 3 to 5 year window, one of the challenges is to break through the media nonsense that only covers those dopamine hits that you're talking about. And one of the reasons why Mike and I are doing this is because of that, because there's not a value in yelling at the other side, because the policies and the money are really what's going to matter. Oh, you might disagree. Maybe there is a value in yelling at the other side.
It's a bit hard starting, but I also now find myself yelling at my own side.
Me too.
And it's just because, okay, first we need to set this up to be absolutely serious. So let's do very, very simple math. The burn rate right now is 9.6% of the entire economy is being borrowed this year. Okay, so see that make it 9% or 10%, whatever it's easy in your brain. Taxing rich people, the tax maximization looks like it's 1.5 points. Someone like myself that really wants to make government smaller, I can come up with a point and a half of things I can cut before you start having to step into entitlements and start that war. So even if both sides, the cut and the tax, only get you 3%, and you're borrowing 9%, do you see the problem? The solutions being offered are frauds. Look, and we burnt the Republican Party in the House down. We removed a speaker for, maybe in total it was $16 billion of difference. It's a lot of money, but we're borrowing about $8 to $9 billion a day. So understand all the crap we did. So we lost several months of actually working on this stuff for the theatrics for about 2 days of borrowing.
Okay. So that on a federal level, again, get it, understand it. We're looking for the solutions. When you say it's 0.5, you said you can find 0.5 to cut somewhere before digging into or going into exploring other options. But if that is the case, is it a 0.5 on future increases, like that stupid DC math we always hear, or we can literally cut 0.5 out now? Let's go.
You can, and maybe you need to rewrite the tax system so you try to maximize economic growth and spread the tax. Before we go into all the things I would do sort of policy-wise, understand the scam. So people that like conspiracy theories. I hate conspiracy theories except for the ones I believe in. But here's actually
JFK, definitely one. JFK.
Okay. Well, actually, I had the legislation to release all the documents.
Well, I brought it up.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing the reaction. And my one about auditing the Pentagon using AI seems to be causing some real controversy. So you remember, Pentagon's unauditable. Let's use AI.
Woo.
You have a situation where what is the actual driver of the debt? First, we fail to sort of want to have that conversation because most people don't understand everything a member of Congress votes on today is borrowed. If you say, well, you can't touch defense, you can't touch mandatory spending, entitlements, earned benefits, whatever whatever name you want to call, you now have about 7% of the budget that you as a member of Congress get to work on. Everything else is now on the untouchable list. So you cannot, mathematically, you can't cut yourself into balance. You can't tax yourself into balance. So are you willing to revolutionize those cost drivers? And this is where I seem to upset so many people because they want to make money. Yeah, remember, Washington, D.C. is all about the money. If you think it's about policy, it's about money. Either to stop competition, to concentrate power, bureaucracies that don't want to change, but ultimately it's about the money. If I came to you tomorrow and said, hey, diabetes is 33% of all healthcare spending in America, and we're making incredible progress on disruption, actually for even maybe type 1 with the inverse vaccine and some of these things, there's a very good chance over the next few years we're going to have substantially cures. Move those things as fast as you can. It turns out it's both the morality and the solution is often in having fewer sick people because the economy grows. So Goldman Sachs about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, did a report saying even these semaglutides, particularly as they start to crash in price, one of the first ones will be generic in May. And now there's a small molecule version that's going to dramatically lower the price. As they get into the society, you may actually pick up another half a point of GDP growth. But you also may have a number of major hospital systems in America go out of business because they don't have enough sick people.
Mm-hmm. So then that's where your lobbyists come in and make sure that this doesn't get anywhere.
Yeah, armies of them.
Okay.
But that's on one side of make people healthier. Turns out to be the most powerful thing you can do to reduce U.S. debt. Then you have to do dozens and dozens and dozens of other things. We have 24 key things that work. Adopt technology in ways where you can radically change the size of government. And this upsets, but the IRS is the second biggest unionized organization in the government. Do you really need buildings full of IRS agents answering the phone? When you call an airline, you do realize the person you're talking to is typically a computer, but really good computer. What would happen if grandma could pick up the phone, call the IRS, and a pleasant voice stays on with her as long as she needs, helps her fill out her forms, maybe even sends her the videos on the form itself, maybe the actually form so she can print it herself if she needs something special. We actually have that technology. We did a pilot program last year. We're going to do a much bigger one this year. But that's the adoption of technology to start to reduce the size of these employees. The pensions, the cost, got to be honest, it's really, really expensive. We've had a piece of legislation to revolutionize the EPA, where the EPA uses data instead of file cabinets, buildings full of file cabinets with paperwork in it. There's technology to crash the price and the size of government, just as I would use both AI and some of the synthetic biology and all these things to reduce the cost of healthcare. And then you have to do other things that are uncomfortable because we're not used to talking like economists. United States population in 15 years will actually start to fall. We will start having more deaths than births in 15 years. Do you do what the Biden administration's been doing, where you allow massive waves of poverty to come across the border, which crushes actually the working poor in your own country? You know, you're the kid who didn't finish high school, but you're out there hanging drywall, you're working your heart out, you really would like to have enough money to start a family. And now all of a sudden the price of hanging drywall crashes because you're competing with a dozen other people that are willing to do it cheaper. Mm-hmm. It was only 15, 20 years ago, Democrats were the ones that wanted the locked up border to protect working men and women. And Republicans were supposed to be the ones exploiting the working class. Now have you noticed it's reversed?
Yeah.
But you do need a talent-based immigration. You need
True.
Smart people. You need people who grow the economy, pay taxes. And the rest of the world now is fighting for smart people, and we haven't even figured this out yet. You know, in the 80s and 90s, we fought over hydrocarbons. Last decade, it was rare earths. This decade in the future, it's going to be smart people, because the entire industrialized world is starting to crash in population.
Well, smart people are a resource at the end of the day, right? So how do we reach out to the smart people, Congressman, that are listening to this right now? And we always ask people to share, because this is where the real conversations happen, because it seems like emotions are the big barrier to having these adult conversations. So I can look at this, that we borrow $8 billion a day, $3 trillion in the last 365, and alarm bells go off for me. And I don't care about any of the other issues, because that is the most paramount issue to me. However, I talk about it, and for many people, it's like watching the paint dry on the wall. So how do we break that barrier?
It's actually one of the great questions. And my instinct is I need people to grow up. And I know this is harsh. Stop being played by the scam artists. When you get the scam artists, when you get the text message, the email, the comment in the section saying, if we just didn't send money to Ukraine, we could balance the budget. And then you go, but every dollar they're talking about sending to Ukraine is functionally 5 days of borrowing. Or my favorite one is, I give these speeches. My last one is like almost 1 million views on YouTube. Yay. And there'll be
you influencer, you're such an influencer.
Yeah. But several thousand comments. Half those comments are actually robots. They're not even real.
Oh, heck yeah. We got bots too. It's fantastic.
Yeah, but they're Russians, they're Chinese, they're Iranians.
Ours are hot chicks, David. I don't know. I mean,
seriously, you got fantastic. They offer dates. At least they offer dates.
Call your profile and wants your number. But she needs your help to send her your credit card number, right?
I already did. Took care of it.
Yeah. I wasn't supposed to.
But you'd be shocked. I represent one of the best educated districts in America, a reasonably prosperous district. And if you could see some of the text messages I get almost daily of smart people who see something on Facebook or this, their best friend that they've never met, who sends them a text message of an article saying, you realize that there are entire armies out there of troll farms and bots and these things that want to actually blow up the United States society. Mm-hmm. If you play with them, you've got to understand the damage you're doing. Act like the smart person you are. Understand when someone says, if we just got rid of, you think of anything as absurd, and start realizing complex problems all have a simple solution. That's absolutely wrong.
Okay.
It's true.
Okay. Makes sense.
Complex problems often require complex solutions. There are solutions. You just have to get off your hiney and start doing them.
Okay.
And, it is shocking the anger I get. Like this morning, I was doing a series of interviews because we've offered multiple pieces of legislation to put more artificial intelligence into like the billing side of healthcare? Do you really need a doctor and then a whole room full of people doing the billing with the insurance company when AI could do that? It's called Clean Claims AI. But we're getting lobbied against a company that sells billing services to kill the bill. Over here, I mean, there's lots of this sort of stuff. And trying to understand, sometimes the crazy you get are either other countries wanting to disrupt society, create frictions, or it's some group trying to make money off you, or
Okay,
money, or protect their business model.
And Congressman, I want to back up just a bit here. When you said, and I don't know if the numbers were exact, but he said if we just stop giving money to Ukraine, that's only 5 days of spending. Don't we need those 5 plus 360 others to just stop? I mean, because it's like my son telling me he's going into debt, he's going over, and I'm like, well, stop doing this. Dad, it's only $15 a month, but okay, we need that 15 to get them all.
Yeah, and my reason I point that out is the number of folks who will contact you and act like it's some type of solution. The reality of it is, even in the Ukraine situation, the military budgeting experts say it may turn out, when we look back, to be the greatest value the United States has recently received militarily, because you've wiped out 60% of Russia's heavy armor. So these people want to plus up NATO spending. You may not have to do in the future, because but those are sidecars. I use that more just as an example. I get my favorite one I get is there's some bot that has decided it loves me, and 2 or 3 times a day I get these text messages email. If we would just get rid of congressional salaries, and I think we worked it out that it was like 2.6 seconds of borrowing a day. But you get the anger trolls who see something like that enough times and they start to believe it's real. They just don't understand the scale of and gotta also remember the other thing. If today we were able to at least balance the budget, tomorrow it's out of balance again, because you have another 10 to 12,000 Americans who turned 65 and moved into their benefits. So you got to build a model that's actually future-proof.
So let's go inside Washington, Congressman David Schweikert. You're there. Yeah, it is. But this is part of it is our side, right? Our side, some of us are involved in a show and are not interested in real solutions, or interested in television solutions. And I'm only speaking about this because the Democrats always seem to have a strategy to win. And when they win, they get to do all this spending, which will eventually ruin the country. So if we're not thinking beyond the next 5 minutes as a party, is it possible? Because when you're having these conversations about people, but borrowing $3 trillion over the course of a calendar year, what are they saying? Oh, well, I don't care, not my problem. Because, if Republicans came out with this unified plan to fix America, maybe that could gain some traction.
Both the Republicans and Democrats, most of the political class is terrified to tell you the truth. And if you did tell the truth, who's going to stand up and stand behind you? Will talk radio? Will cable news? Will the internet? Will the trolls on the internet? When you start explaining that 100% of borrowing, 100% from today through the next 30 years, interest and demographics. Why does it give me a bubble?
I don't know. Somebody gave you a bubble. That was fantastic. Yeah. I didn't even know that was it. Did you do that? Did you do that, Rob?
I have no idea.
I have no idea who did that. You see, you started talking about your bot that loves you.
Phone. Yeah. But the point I'm going at is it's interest, and we got old.
Yeah.
And you get up in front of an audience of people who are struggling in their retirement and say that, and they're really not, they're not happy with you. And you're trying to explain, I'm trying to save. If you don't step up and do hard things today, it will be really ugly tomorrow. Like I actually have a truck that goes around my district, where Schweikert talked about Social Security, throw them out. And I'm the idiot who's for years now has been trying to modernize it and save it. But because the scam, and here's the scam, and you got to understand this. This is back to the conspiracy theory. Don't do anything, don't do anything, don't do anything. Middle class now are voting for Republicans. Working class vote for Republicans. Rich people vote for Democrats. Very poor people vote for Democrats. And this middle class, they do a VAT tax at the end of the decade, a value-added tax like this is in Europe and Asia, which kicks the middle class in the head because that's the population it's consuming. It politically is easy for the Democrats to do because it doesn't really affect the people that vote for them and write them their checks. It kicks Republicans in the head, and it's the type of tax that's easy to hide. So if any of you have ever traveled around the world, that VAT tax, it's easy, it's simple, it's efficient. And if we don't start to do something fairly soon in cleaning up everything from our tax code to what we spend money on, I almost don't have another solution other than doing a VAT. There is something called a border adjustment that you guys need to give me an almost hour show and a whiteboard to explain how it works. But instead of countries arbitraging us when they send us their goods, they get a tax arbitrage, meaning they remove a bunch of the tax so they can sell it to us. But when we sell to them, they put a bunch of tax on it, so we get screwed. It hurts U.S. manufacturing. And there's a way to adjust that. And that may be an alternative. But I'm running out of options. And I've given presentations on this, and I get people that say, well, that can't be true. I've heard just the difference. And you say, but some people don't understand what 12 zeros behind a trillion mean.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah. So then, and they don't even, I think it's impossible for the vast majority of this nation to understand even what 1 trillion is. When 1 trillion just rolls off the tongue so easily, it sounds like it's a surmountable number. It's not. It's absolutely astronomical. And I always use that. It takes over 30,000 years to give you $1 a second to get to $1 trillion. So trillion is a lot of money. But we do have an interactive show here, Congressman. So if you can play along with us, that would be great. Because we have a lot of fun people asking you questions, giving you a lot of praise, by the way, giving you several compliments.
So you have some thick viewers who are willing to geek out with us, but that's the idea. There are smart people out there who want to be treated like adults.
Sure. But also, if you have a question about your government, we talked about petitioning our government when we were there in D.C. with you, sir. It was, if you have questions about the way your government's handling something, or you kind of see something's kind of fishy, again, I believe in coincidences. I've just never seen one. So if I just have a question about, well, that doesn't make any sense. That shouldn't, at least in my mind, make me a conspiracy theorist. If I see a theory that seems like it's plausible, okay, why can't we ask about that and have a grown-up conversation? And the reason why I bring that up, because several of the listeners today brought up Cloward Pivot. So basically just flooding the thought that if you flood the Social Security system, the welfare system, with as many recipients as you possibly can, it kind of forces things into a guaranteed basic income, might be one of the reasons why we see an open border. See, that's a good question to me. Seems like, oh yeah, that, especially if you look at this administration, where that would go. But no, it's a conspiracy theory instead of, it might be a thing.
I will give you one. I don't think these people are that bright.
Wait, our people are bright.
No, I'm the Democrats.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're clarifying here. This is an interactive show where people are smarter
and this, actually, in some ways, you'd almost rather negotiate with someone who is that brilliant and that duplicitous, because at least you're negotiating with someone who's not just doing it from feelings. President Trump locks down the border. Numbers drop dramatically. Well, if you're a Democrat, you have to do everything completely opposite, because, well, that's how you view your soul, your morality, though they don't believe in souls. And I have had conversations with Democrat representatives Now, these are folks from the East Coast. They have no concept at the time we were having the conversations about what it was like for us to live in the West, where millions are crossing through Texas and Arizona and places like that. And it was, well, you're just like one of those Trumpian folks where don't you have a soul? Don't you have morality? And then these are the same people that started to scream when a few thousand showed up in New York City or in D.C. or Chicago. And because now they got to deal with a little bit of the burden. But a lot of the chaos, I really do believe, is they were so hell-bent on not wanting to be anything like Donald Trump. And they burnt themselves down in doing it. And look, we haven't done a stellar job as Republicans. But remember, we barely control the House, and that's it. But the Democrats, I think, have so angered much of the nation on the absurd policies they've had towards, where they subsidize big business, they hand out cash to big pharma, and then they open up the borders, and they just crush the working poor in their country. And I don't know how Democrats think they're going to get rewarded this election.
And that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Because I almost look at America right now, Congressman, as a parliamentary system. And Mike and I have talked about this because you have your progressive wing and you got your Democrats and you've got your Republicans and you've got your Trump fans. And some of the Republicans are not really in the Trump camp. Some are. So you have these four wings of
there's more sub-parties than that. You got to go rural, urban, coastal.
100%.
Those that grow corn, those that grow soybeans, seriously. You'd be shocked at all the crazy little subcultures.
Well, and isn't that because, again, at the end of this, it's all about money, as you always say, money, power, vanity. We're students of Schweikert, so we now understand the money, power, vanity system, but always comes back to money. So to me, the conspiracy is just quite simple. Democrats in particular want total control so they can spend all of our money and borrow all of our money. That's what it seems like to me. So all these other things point to that. So again, the border, the economic policies, the tax policies, that one issue of they just want to take my money as much as possible, spend it with their friends that will help them get reelected so they can keep this vicious cycle going on. Whatever happens, they don't care because it won't impact that upper circle as much as it will impact the rest of us.
Yeah, I think it's time I get out of this job and just let you do it because you get it.
Good job, Rob. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, you're ready, Rob.
I'm going to be a hell of a chief of staff. I'm telling you. I'm going to be a hell of a chief of staff.
It's the hardest thing I have with many of my Democrat colleagues, and a number of them are very smart, but I think they've told a story that isn't true for so long that they've begun to believe it. Just tax rich people, we'll be fine. The tax cuts did all this damage, and none of that's mathematically true. And I'll sit down and show them. And I realize I get this. Oh, those are interesting numbers. And 5 minutes later, they're in front of a television camera going back to their script. The other side of that is how do you, our district separate, because our district has tolerated me for a number of years here. And we've tried to be just brutally honest with our voters, and they've rewarded being treated, like adults. But in most districts, if Joe Bob or left wing, whatever, got up in front of one of our town halls and told the truth about the math and where the money really goes and what's the drivers and the actual economics, how many of them would survive their next election? Because they've lied to their voters for so long.
But isn't it at some point on us to stop believing the lies? And that's
yes, but
right.
but Rob, you and I've had this one conversation. You have to then have a population that watches a podcast like this or a stream or whatever the hell this we're doing.
Oh,
we'll go stream. We'll stick with stream.
But how many people go home tonight and will read 3 or 4 really smartly written articles? Now, look, we all love going to Drudge and getting our little dopamine hit on the crazy because it's fun. But you got to remember that's almost like recreation. Then when you sit down and read The Economist magazine, yeah, it's European, it's leans left, but it's like written by adults. And then you go over there and read this and read that. And you have that power on that phone to set up an aggregator of, if you care about debt, you care about healthcare, you care about guns, you care about hunting, you care about cars, what do you care about? Set that up and then get 50 articles a day written by all sorts of different people and then read them. And that's my hope, is the last 15 years have been just a mess because people who know nothing about what they're writing about are the ones writing the blog, writing the articles, trying to make money. It's clickbait. And I find this actually with younger folks, they seem to already get it. They don't, oh, come, that's garbage. Yeah. Oh, no, I look at that for fun, but that isn't real. My problem is my sort of 50s, 60s and up. They're from a world where you used to read a newspaper and it was vetted. You didn't always agree with them. You knew they had political bias, but it was reasonably vetted. And then you got the afternoon paper that said just the opposite, and you had balance. Well, that world hasn't existed in a decade now. So my hope is actually, does the new technology of, I now use a news aggregator on the things I'm interested in, and now I see lots of different articles. Maybe that's part of the solution.
Okay. Congressman, a while back, you and I were having a conversation about a rancher, and Rob, we'll come back to it. I know, because Rob loves to talk about economy here, but I got to talk about this because this is something that we were talking.
Well, I remember I said that because you were the only person in my life who would have geeked out on it. I
was blown away by this 80-year-old rancher that decided to go to Kraplakistan or wherever the heck he went to, and he wanted to get some semen from a sheep. An almost endangered sheep, and come here and basically make them in his farm, basically save the species, crossbreeding them with another bighorn sheep, and make something exotic that he could sell to hunters for, $30,000-$50,000 a clip. And I almost applauded the guy at the island of Dr. Moreau kind of vibe that it had. And he had he was 80 years old, and I told Congressman that at 80 years old, I'm probably going to be doing crazy stuff like that. So just whatever, get ready. Here's what I just I found and talked about on one of our other programs, was the reintroduction of the woolly mammoth is actually within reach. So here's where we have some real problems in our world with debt and borrowing and government expansion. So what do we do now? Let's bring back Ice Age, whatever. What could possibly go wrong? Do we really have that much to worry about, or that little to worry about, that we want to bring back the woolly mammoth?
We have lots of things to worry about, but I need to take you back to one of the reasons, as you, and I'm embarrassed to say this on a live camera because I'm going to get made fun of. I have a couple of things I'm fascinated with, AI and those types, but I'm more fascinated with something called synthetic biology, where you can create certain things. Matter of fact, when I get out of this job, I'm going to try to convince my wife to let me have an old CRISPR downstairs, and I'm going to play with yeast protein. But now that you realize I'm probably insane.
Oh, he is. Oh, he got cut off. Yeah. There he is. Okay, sorry, sir. We lost you a second there. Yeah, I think we lost his audio.
Yep.
Congressman, we lost your audio. Look up, but you're telling the story wonderfully. But yeah, it's this. We can watch him tell the story. Can't hear you. So he's
this is great. There we go.
Wait, nope. There you go. Nope.
Uh-oh.
Nope. He's pushing stuff on his computer.
Technology.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you. Wait, yeah.
So this is the greatest tease ever about woolly. I know. And now we have to wait.
No, I'm not kidding, man. This is
creating Jurassic Park in his garage.
Bro, it's called Colossal Biosciences. I'm not kidding. This is a real thing. They're coming up with this thing.
Yeah, we all saw Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park.
Dude,
They've made 6 of them now.
Yes.
6 Jurassic Park movies, all staring you in the face, saying no.
This is a terrible idea, is what each one of those movies say. This is an absolutely terrible idea. Man,
did you see there's a documentary on Netflix that covers this? There's some guy in his garage in Georgia or somewhere in the middle of nowhere. He's trying to create rabbits or something that glow in the dark. It's just messing around. No, like, not a joke. It's just bizarre, but he's just doing it. He's like, everybody can do it. So I guess that's it. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No, well, like, I mean, I quoted Jurassic Park in saying that essentially Jeff Goldblum said this, look, this was a species that was chosen by nature to be gone.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of any species on this planet, nature said be gone.
Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry, but I was getting calls, and one of the calls must have been really important because it just like wiped you guys out.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we know
where I'm going with this is a lot of this is technology on the other side of growing species. And then we're going to come back to that because I have a fascination. I know someone who's actually affiliated with a project that's trying to bring back the dodo bird for the island of Mauritius. Hey, look, I hear they're very tasty.
I'm in. If there's a season, I'm down. Let's go.
But there actually is something called synthetic biology that we're learning how to manipulate genomes, proteins, these things. And a lot of horrible things you and I get afflicted with. I mean, I'll let you tell your own stories. We're going to cure. We now know how to cure sickle cell anemia, and the drug is available. But it's the first genetic where they change the genome, but it fixes it. We now have a cure for hemophilia. If someone's watching and they're sort of intellectually curious, use your favorite search engine, look up something called inverse vaccine. The concept of you have vaccines that teach your body to attack something. How about if you could teach your body not to attack something? How many diseases are autoimmune? Multiple sclerosis, Crohn's. These things are autoimmune diseases. They're your body attacking yourself. And that's in tests right now. So one of the reasons I'm really interested in this is it goes with my theory that if we would adopt disruptive technologies, it's the most powerful thing we can do for stabilizing our country economically and have this be a growth century. Because we're going to have headwinds. Our population is going to be flatlining and starting to fall. Will we be able to adopt immigration policies where we bring in talent? Now, talent can be a skilled carpenter or a synthetic biologist. But the morality of a society that has where people are suffering and you can cure it. Well, it turns out some of that technology is also going to bring some pretty wacky things.
Like dodo bird.
And a woolly mammoth.
And a woolly mammoth. This I would do. Okay. And by the way, I'm down with that. Yeah, so it'd be a whole new show. We just us, all three of us out there hunting dodo. And why not? If we get to whatever island you say we're supposed to go to. It's definitely the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. So, well, isn't this part of it, though, is, you look at America going in from the 19th to 20th century and electricity and skyscrapers and all these great technological advancements that ushered in the modern era. Society, America, whatever, doesn't it need technological advancements to further humanity? And isn't that what America's always been great at?
Its living standards are based on productivity. Productivity comes from innovation. It's really is that simple. And you remember your high school economics class?
No, take one of those.
Oh,
that's part of the. I think this is part of the challenge, Congressman.
Hey, Arizona public school system, right here, bud. Yeah. Right there you are. So no
school system.
Saguaro High School in Scottsdale, but I had
Apollo in the West Valley. Apollo.
Great football, though.
Well, not back in my day. No,
my day. I'm that much older than you. But people only get paid more from really two things. Inflation, well, that's crap because you're just keeping up. Or productivity. When productivity goes up, you can pay more. What happens when there's levels of disruption where you're no longer the person, sewing the garment? You're the person now programming the computer that's are managing the computer that's sewing dozens of garments. You get paid a lot more. And this is all around us. Should we have stopped Netflix from taking out Blockbuster Video. How many of you want to go stand in line for the little silver disc, and the one you want is out with
Come on. It's a Blockbuster night. I got the chills going back to that. It's a Blockbuster night.
Hey, kind of the line.
But we live it around us. Is your life better because now you can hit a button and you get the world?
Yeah.
And that happened in a decade. And so my argument is, I get some people that act, like they raise their eyebrows, like, well, David, you keep talking about all this crazy stuff, but the fact of the matter, you're living the crazy stuff. I'm talking to you right now on my iPhone because for some reason your program hates my MacBook. Think of the technology that's on this iPhone and what existed a decade ago.
Yeah.
Be optimistic. We're Americans. Somehow we basically will do stupid things and then boom, change the world.
So, okay. So the woolly mammoth thing, not to be concerned about, it might bring up some really cool stuff. Because I think it was Eddie. I think Eddie brought up a good point that the mount would be fantastic on a woolly mammoth. Holy mackerel. My taxidermist would be the happiest guy. He'd retire.
Yeah.
It's
what do you think it tastes like?
Chicken.
Elephant. I'm gonna say elephant. They're using the elephant gene. I actually read this because it was fascinating to me, and they are using this. It's very Jurassic Park. It's very Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton, if this goes down, needs to get a Nobel Prize for coming up with this noise.
Yeah, but we've been talking about it for a while. We just now have the ability to take very old strings, or if we can find an intact strip of DNA, wonderful. And I think we have one, or they have one. Sorry.
Yeah.
On the dodo bird. Others they've had to reassemble from different places.
Yeah.
But we can do it.
But you hear that right now because it's the beginning of all 6 of those movies. Da 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 da. It's all nice. It's all wonderful. Oh man, gosh, this looks like a beer commercial. This place is fantastic. Let's do that. And there's and everybody starts freaking out. So we could all be in the da 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 part right now, and then my house gets stomped by a woolly mammoth, or might get stomped on I-10 by a woolly mammoth.
Yeah. Rob, do you think we've lost Mike? Do you think he's like worried about now the? He's probably.
I promise this is tea. I promise this is tea. This is not beer.
How much money does he have to save for that hunting permit?
He's already starting. He's planning. He's like,
I already have it. I already have an item. I'm bidding on it at an auction this weekend for a guide service for my 7 West tag. So yeah, trust me. All I'm doing is donating to conservation. That's it. I'm a conservation. I'm just participating in the North American model, David. That's it.
so are you saying, Congressman, you're still optimistic despite all of this? Woolly mammoths, $3 trillion in borrowing. You're still optimistic?
All right. And partially because it's a standard joke, because when I really think about this, I tear up and want to roll up in a fetal position.
That visual will never go away, but it's fantastic.
Yeah. I just turned 62. My wife is my same age. I have a 21-month-old that we adopted. I'm pathologically optimistic, but I don't have a choice. I have college tuition 20 years from now.
Oh my God! Speaking of that, I just saw driving down the street past one of the community colleges. It said for financial aid, go to this website, and I'm like, for a JC? Financial aid? And for some reason, it just didn't click. I didn't think about it. But I mean, my days, right out of high school, going to a JC for a few classes, I remember paying, I think it was like $13 a credit hour.
I was washing dishes at the Windmill Dinner Theater. Actually, I was washing dishes there when Bob Crane was murdered. The Hogan's Hero.
Yeah.
Because he was doing a show there.
Whoa.
One of the ways I started. Now, I actually started the community college when I was still in high school, but that's another weird story. Yeah, I mean, but the world is different. But okay, back to the thought experiments. What are the 2 things in society that over the last quarter century, half century, have gone up most in price?
Woolly mammoths.
Yeah, but those are expensive. I bet they're going to be expensive.
Healthcare.
What are the 2 things
Healthcare.
Price? What?
Healthcare.
And education.
And education. What are the 2 things in society that have the most federal government interaction participation in?
Those things too.
Does anyone want to think like an economist and say maybe they distorted the efficiencies?
I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm in.
I don't count.
I'll second. Can I get a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Sisters on the left, the solution is let's do more government.
I love Elon Musk quote. It was one of the best things I've seen in a while. And I think it was last year, and it was fantastic. It just stuck with me. It said, we'll give an 18-year-old a $100,000 loan for school, but we won't give him $10,000 to start a business. Just mind-blowing. Just how backwards it has all become, especially in the education system. But seeing that, I mean, financial aid for a JC word.
Which one has armies of lobbyists and the participants almost exclusively own one party? I mean, let's be honest.
Education, yeah.
How many Republicans does the teachers union or the academic collectives, support for?
See, this is back to it just makes me, you're pathologically optimistic. I have been until about the last, how long have we been having these conversations? 3 or 4 years? Yeah. The more we've had them, the less optimistic I am, except for this whole American freedom that it's up to me. So I just feel as an individual, it's more incumbent upon me, Congressman, that I have to figure out how to plan for what's really going to be painful from Washington. As in, I probably won't get to keep as much as my money as I do now. I probably am going to have to figure out how to structure a business in a tax way that you and your grubby little hands out there in Washington can't grab. Not you in particular. But is that how partially we should look at this, as our own individual responsibility and to try to find our own way, but do it morally, of course, by not bringing back woolly mammoths?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Stop it. The answer is both yes, and now help me convince your family members and your neighbors on the seriousness that the delusion that there's free stuff, free money, free opportunity, that if you just tax rich people, if you just do this, everything's fine. The scale is overwhelming. And understand what's coming at you this year. In 2025, a substantial portion of the 2017 tax reform expires. Individual tax rates are going up. Your LLC are going up. Your sole proprietorship, your tax rates are going up. Your pass-through is going up. Your subchapter S is going up. It's to understand your tax rates, and there's going to be a war because C corporations have theirs locked in. So are you going to have to deal with something with them to be able to afford to, adjust everyone else's? Or do you have to come up with some other ways to broaden the base so certain ones that aren't paying taxes? And I'm going to say this, and I don't want anyone to conflate it, but we've been trying to understand where there's levers. 16%, 17% of the U.S. economy is actually just in the tax-free world. So the tax-exempt hospital, the tax-exempt this, the tax-exempt that, that's now 16, 17% of the entire economy. And then those are often, though, the same people who are in front of me daily when I'm in Washington demanding more money. Yet, if you're Harvard and you have billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that you invest just like a hedge fund, they're basically a nonprofit hedge fund buying parts of businesses, buying this for rates of return.
Wow.
Should they pay taxes like another hedge fund? They're competing with each other. One gets to use tax exempt, the other doesn't. Does that distort markets? So we're trying to figure out what can you do out there to create dramatically more competition in society. And that now upsets a lot of businesses, a lot of big corporations that have bought, that control huge portions of market share and don't want competition. All the way down to who actually pays taxes. And we need to deal with reality as a bunch of our population gets older and they're starting to leave the income world and is now going to live off savings and investments. So much of the way we finance government is income based. income tax based. Next year's gonna be a hell of a year with all the expiring tax cuts.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, the debt is just growing like this.
Okay. So help us out real quick, Congressman. And by the way, we told you we'd keep you for a half hour. You can stay as long as you want. You can leave whenever you want. You can tell us to pound sand, whatever you want to do. We love having you. We're going to keep you as long as you keep talking. We're good. But I want to talk about those that are paying.
If I'm rambling, I probably haven't had enough coffee yet today. But
I don't believe that at all.
My 21-month-old will come running in the door and screaming, and at that point,
he's been on the show before. He's been on the show before. Actually, there's a pretty funny story about that.
He is adorable, isn't he?
Of course he is. He's fantastic. I love running around.
My little girl describing Nancy Pelosi live on air. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
I had so many. Yeah,
I love
during
that.
COVID. For everyone who's listening, during COVID, I brought my little girl to Washington with me, and Speaker Pelosi had her goons functionally take a then 6-year-old girl and make her get off the floor of the House because 6-year-old girls are the cause of COVID.
Yeah, and a national security issue as well. I mean,
just so
come on, she's your kid. And by the way, thanks for hanging out, Brian. Brian was hanging out during the lockdown as well, and he's found us again. But David, real quickly, I want to ask about you talk about those that pay taxes and revenue based. Where does that fit in when we say, oh, we're going to have a tax increase, it's going to go up, we're paying more income taxes? What about this 48% that are claimed at least say don't pay federal income tax? So talk to me about that. And why aren't we dipping in that well?
It's probably closer to 50%.
Okay.
And now you back into the issue of, why my fear is, because I actually think it's horrible policy, that you'll see a VAT tax in the future to basically draw them in. So when you go buy, what is that thing you're drinking?
Oh, this is a tea. It's a sparkling
so
tea.
18% of that, if it was a traditional VAT, but there was a VAT tax when they made the can. There was a tax when they brewed the tea. There was a tax, and this type of tax you don't see because much of it's in the production, and then it's like then at your retail. There just isn't that much money on that middle down.
Okay. So it's not something. It's not a tree to bark up, really.
There's a moral, ethical, sort of societal argument that everyone should have some skin in the game, but if you're a low wage worker, you're still paying FICA tax. You're still paying into Social Security, Medicare, unemployment. You're just not paying into the income tax side, but you still have that thing coming out of your paycheck. Now, that's sort of social insurance. The better argument is, how do I make government dramatically smaller, much more efficient? And part of that is my fixation on changing the cost drivers and then doing things and getting government just out of a lot of stupid things we do. I'll give you one that I will get attacked for in this coming election. I ran a series of amendments because I wanted people to engage in the thought experiment on the floor of the House. Almost 40% of what we call the non-defense discretionary budget is cash we borrow and then send to your county, to your city, to your state. Now, and many of them are programs you absolutely love, justice grants and this and that, and those things but we're borrowing money at the federal level, sending it to local entities that do have taxing and borrowing authority, so they don't have to. Is that rational? Is it rational to build up debt that your retirement, your kids are going to pay for, to send money to entities that do have their own taxing authority? And that was fairly controversial amendments, but I did those to make a point that.
So we know that a congressman who gets calls.
That's right.
In the middle of.
I was going to say, see? It's not surprising. Nope. It's like watching a kung fu movie. You see your mouth moving, but just
Yeah.
not really think happening. Maybe some subtitles. All right, come on back in. And
This
one
is the
thing,
great
and what
joy of doing it live. You
it
just
is,
never know what's
and,
going to
and
happen.
one thing I definitely do want to talk to, one thing I want to talk about is a friend of mine that, especially David. I'd jump out and come back in, Congressman, if you'd like to. We'd love to have you back in. But if you need to wave and say goodbye and go be, dad and all that, you can do that as well. But one thing I do want to talk to him about is especially him. I think that Congressman Schweikert, and thank you guys for all, for Del for jumping in there and the kind words you had to say about the congressman, because it's really hard for Rob and I to have an opinion of Washington, D.C. that we have and sing the praises of a congressman. But he is truly someone you can sing the praises about. I was talking about him today in the middle of the day as well. So, but he is, see if we can do it here. See if we can do it.
All right.
Congressman, there he is.
When I get certain phone calls, it wipes out the audio.
Well, tell your wife you're busy.
All right. So I'll give you the last bit that I really could use some help on. For years now, I've been advocating, saying, look, Congress is incapable of doing things that are intellectually difficult and robust. They don't see the world as, a dozen moving things that you have to do all at the same time to get the one outcome. And so I've been trying to get this debt and deficit commission. Do you know who some of my biggest oppositions are? Is what we call the conservative industrial complex. It's people who make money, so what happens when you have some of the name brand people you're going to see tonight on Fox News, and they're lobbying the speaker and everyone else saying, don't do a debt and deficit commission because one of my clients is nervous it might change their estate tax or might change, you might legalize competition for their business. And there's my rage is Democrats are just overt in their disdain for basic economics. But I have a number of Republicans out there that make a living off of not also letting us do the things that would be necessary to grow, cut, and reform and modernize.
I'd like to, if I could, and before we let you go, Congressman, this is something that I had a conversation several weeks ago, and I'm afraid after I tell both of you this, there'll be no working with you after this because it's highly complimentary. Speaking with a friend, very liberal-minded friend, and he if we're together, he rarely says conservative talk show host over here. Yeah, he's just it's kind of a shh, we don't talk about this kind of thing. Just don't mention these around my friends, okay? He said, you know what? Because I tried to show him one of your texts, the text about the borrowing and the spending. And he goes, you know something? He goes, when I watch your show or listen to your show, especially when he had you on, Congressman, he said, you, Rob, and the congressman are like prophets. He said, because you know the facts, you know the truth, and you're speaking the truth and you're speaking the facts, but very few people actually want to listen or believe because it goes against their beliefs and their doctrine. So it's you guys are saying, you guys are basically modern day prophets. And I thought, you know what? You kind of feel like that sometime. And I know you have to, Congressman, because you have the numbers in your hand and you say, please look at this. And no, I don't want to see that. No, we don't want to do it that way. I thought it was highly complimentary. At least made me feel better.
And my instinct is I'm an idiot because I keep
an idiot prophet? We're fine.
No. We all love compliments. Many of them aren't deserved. Look, I'm trying as hard as I can. I throw everything, I throw every drop of energy I have at this. And the thing I find most difficult is also when you get the folks who, every one of their cousin thinks they want to be a member of Congress until they find out what really goes on and what it's really like. I'm just tired of people making crap up.
I bet.
And the unwillingness to deal with the facts. My old family saying, which is sort of a weird one, is the math will always eventually win.
That's not weird.
and
Because
that is all. But there's hope. It's just the timing is fleeting.
So speaking of timing, then,
okay,
we've got, 5 months until the election.
Mm-hmm.
What are the chances 2024 is favorable for us at this moment, knowing a lot obviously can happen between now and November? Are there things we have to do to get more people to the polls? Are we trending in the right direction?
This could be a terrific year for conservatives. We're also seeing a resurgence of people who are tired of the feelings-based screaming and yelling. But there's other problems. We have to deal with the reality of it, of how many text messages do you get a day now asking you for money?
5 from Biden himself.
Wow. Joe's texting you. That's great, bud.
Yeah. Kamala too.
But it's particularly on the Republican side. We're chewing up our small dollar donors. The Democrats have stunning amounts lined up. For those of us in Arizona, we hold the legislature just barely. And the outside groups are going to spend millions and millions and millions on legislative races to take the legislature. So if you care about election integrity, understand what happens to you if you lose your state legislature with a left-wing governor. The thing that has made Republicans look good is the incompetence of the Biden administration policies. Their policies, they're basically a planned economy party now. They buy big international big businesses, they subsidize them, they hand out checks. It's why, like, the many of the big chamber of commerces back in Washington don't even come into Republican offices anymore. And it's hard for people to get their heads around that because, for decades, Republicans are big business. Well, no, not anymore. So many things have culturally changed, but that's just the alignments on winning the election. One of the biggest differences also is Democrats owned young people, at least up until now. There's something happening out there where that sort of under 35, under 40 crowd is realizing, hey, this utopian world didn't work out. I'm poor today. And that's going to be fascinating because we're seeing, if you're a guy with a tool belt and a truck, you're probably already voting Republican now. Our biggest Achilles heel is well-educated, fairly prosperous neighborhoods, because tone means a lot. Being intellectually credible, and maybe fixating and concentrating and working on the things that's important to their lives. We have too many candidates who run around and they talk about what they care about instead of what your voters care about. Look, I'm incredibly blessed. I represent a district where when we poll, economics and prosperity and those things are way up at the very, very top. It's an aspirational district. These are people, entrepreneurial, they work their hearts out. So I'm in sync with them. I just wish more people running for other offices would actually, when you're talking to your voter, talk about their needs, not what you want to sell them.
Oh,
and here comes the
game. See, there we go. All right. Well, this is just
like goes the Coonhound.
Right on time.
Come here, Olivia. Say hi.
Oh, wait. Oh, hey, it's Olivia. No, wait. Say hi, Olivia. Hi. How are you, beauty? How are you? You doing good?
Yeah.
And there's
Look
Matt.
at big boy. Look at that good-looking family right there. What's up, my man?
Look at his hair.
I know. This is
all full grown in.
I'm kind of like, I'm envious here. I thought we were going with the same do here. Yeah, we got the same program happening.
He's pulling my hair too much.
Is he pulling your hair too much?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, those
brothers
are
good
brothers,
like
I
that.
tell you.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, buddy? How you doing, pal? We got you. We got you, buddy.
That's the reason for eternal optimism right there.
That's it right there. How can you not be optimistic?
we are. Yeah, I mean, so you asked a question before. I'm worried about the country. I'm heartbroken about the efficiency of Congress growing up, and yet on a personal level, I've never had more joy. So just keep working hard and try to do good things.
My man, Congressman, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate you. And like you said, that's when it's time to go. All right there. Thanks, guys. We'll chat with you guys soon. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Man, what a fantastic human being. Holy man.
Well, and I hate to be that guy because I live in.
I am that guy. I'm fanboying
right?
like crazy over Congressman Schweikert.
But it's like, oh, everybody else's congressperson's the problem. No, literally, you just saw an hour's worth of proof that your congressman's the problem, not mine. Because
yeah, I know.
I live on the very edge of Schweikert's district, and I love it. A Schweikert yard sign will be in my yard later this month.
That's fantastic, and it should be. Oh, and I got to get him back because I had a thought that I had about Joe Biden and his $25 million haul in his Obama Clinton fundraiser. The funny part about all that is it spends 20% less just because he's president. So there you go, 20%, take it right off the top, just because he's 20, that 25 million, take off 20% of that because of inflation.
He's the big guy.
Holy mackerel, man. And thank you all for playing along. Thank you all for the kind words that you guys are saying about Congressman, because he really is. And like I said, it's very difficult for what Rob and I do when we bash the swamp as much as we do, and then we sing the praises of a congressman. He is definitely praiseworthy, and he's humble, and he's intelligent, and he's probably top 3-4 intelligent people I've known in my life.
And it gets back to this point that, Mike, you and I keep talking about, is that we can take some responsibility towards talking with our neighbors, towards finding out what their positions are. I had a conversation today with Representative Annalise Ortiz. She's a progressive Democrat in the Arizona legislature. She's in the House now. She's running for Senate later on this year. And her and I are becoming friends. And we talked about the housing bill that she worked on. It was a bipartisan housing bill. She said this to me as a progressive lawmaker. And this is something that's incredibly fascinating to me, Mike. She said, we have to get government out of the way in housing. So when you want to talk about...
So what is she saying? She's a privatized housing?
No. Because there are certain lot sizes and requirements. Like certain homes have to have garages. So all these extra things, if you need more land because you can only have so much land, right? Or you have to have so much land and you have to have a garage and you have to have this type of shingle or whatever. If you lessen some of those restrictions, it lowers the cost that allows more people to buy homes. And she worked hard to get Republicans on board. She compromised, she negotiated, and the governor, who's a Democrat, vetoed this bill. But the fact that a progressive said it admitted that government creates more expensive housing, there's room to work with that is what I'm getting at, because even progressives understand government is not the solution to everything. That government, when it gets involved, creates extra costs.
That's right. But I will still stay with him on that. And Rob probably rolled his eyes when he heard me talk to the congressman about that, was that I'm going to stay on that. Whether, you get rid of that, that's only 5 days of borrowing. Okay, good. Cool. Great first step. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's keep getting rid of this. Just trim until we kind of feel at least a little encouraged that we're on the right trajectory.
Well, and that's the question is, what is the right trajectory? And are we as a country willing to find it? Because that's really the ultimate part, whether you want to cut Ukraine or not. Nobody wants to cut anything ultimately, because no one actually is cutting anything.
I want to cut everything.
Well, but again, that's great that we can talk about wanting to cut everything, but it's not actually happening. Like, even going back to, again, this is always where I criticize Republicans, and some of y'all get mad at me, which is fine. But I'm not sworn allegiance to a party. I think the parties are what's wrong with this country ultimately. But if you're talking about kicking out a House Speaker to make moves on television and to please the Newsmax crowd over 2 days of borrowing, you're doing it wrong. And you're not necessarily helping to win elections, because if you read between the lines of what Congressman Schweikert said, tone matters. So my neighborhood is a neighborhood in Phoenix it was where lawyers and doctors used to live in the 60s. These houses were primarily built in the early 60s. And you had people that stayed in this neighborhood, and they're getting old and they're selling out. Some of them are passing away, and younger people are moving in. It's those people that Schweikert are talking about. They're people with college degrees. They're people with good careers. Like my new neighbors are both lawyers, for example. My other guy over here, he's got a nice big truck, Mike, that you would love. He's got a fifth wheel. He's got like a 67 Pontiac. So he's got some measure of success. These are the people who really care about tone. And these are the people that in this state will help a Republican win or defeat a Republican. So Carrie Lake is that perfect example in her Senate race. Some of these people in my neighborhood, traditional Republicans, would rather see Ruben Gallego be the senator than Carrie Lake because of the tone, because of the way she delivers things. And this refusal to try to even get some of these folks to vote is what's so bizarre to me, because for the Democrats, winning's the only strategy. That's why in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin last year, the Democrat legislatures basically, or however they did it, worked around the election system because they do what it takes to win. And sometimes that means changing it up a little bit or have a different outreach. That's all I'm getting at here. It's not the policies. It's not this. It's just there's a certain amount of anger, but you already have that cornered. So don't worry about that. Show up on your talk shows, throw your flames, but spend your time campaigning in neighborhoods like mine where there's voters who would actually help you win, get you over the top.
All right. Let's get to a few of these things. Cloward Piven was brought up, and great job, Del, for pulling that one. Even stumped the congressman on that one, just so we're all clear on this. It's an article written by Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven. The strategy aims to utilize militant anti-poverty groups to facilitate a political crisis by overloading the welfare system via an increase in welfare claims, forcing the creation of a system of guaranteed minimum income and redistributing income through the federal government.
Which we basically do with Social Security anyways.
Well, it's what, but also what we're doing with, pulling in 10 million more bodies that we're writing checks for and giving cell phones and in that. So they're definitely something to look into. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's part of the reason we're in the situation that we're in. So I'm glad Congressman Schweikert's seeing some optimism in younger people recognizing what they've been told about America is a bunch of crap. Because when we were taught, and we were kind of mid-40s and above, at least Mike and I, we were taught that America is the beacon on the hill. America is the greatest of the great. Young people aren't taught that anymore. They're taught America's original sin makes this a horrible country. I just saw some post on Instagram the other day that said, never repeat America again or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay. So you don't like freedom is what you're saying. Because ultimately still at the end of the day in this country, no matter who you are, whatever hurdles you have to come over, there is a path for you to prosperity, whatever that looks like for you. It might be more difficult for you than it was for me or vice versa, but you still have a path if you don't quit, learn new skills, adapt. So I think that regardless of what these sociologists and these political thinkers think, that optimism is still there for me on an individual level, Mike. It's just not on a government level right now.
No, government's not here to save you. Greg, thank you for the compliment. David, it was you as well. Thank you very much for that. I think this has been a lot of fun. It was great having David back, for the love of grief, man. That guy I mean, we talked to him offline, but when you get him on and get him rolling, woo! And he was geeked out about that big sheep article. So that's why I brought up the woolly mammoth thing. I was like, you're gonna love this stuff. So y'all, thank you for playing along. Thank you for hanging out with us and participating in the kind words you said about the congressman and the kind words for us. And thank you, Brian, found us. I love it. I love that you're back. We do this Mondays 4 to 6-ish, 4 to 5:30, 6-ish, and then we do this Friday at noon. And by the way, my apologies. Thank you for hanging out. Please get in the comments and let us know if afternoon on Friday is a little better time for you guys. Let us know. We thought nooner would just kind of be cool. Maybe it's happy hour, so we'll figure it out. But that was a snafu with our streaming system and Facebook. So really appreciate you, Del, always for playing along as well. And we'll do this on Friday noon. We're gonna do noon this time, but let us know in the comments if you want us to change that up. We might consider going days, times, anything. Let us know, but share it out. Let us know, please. By the way, especially with the congressman, share this video out and let them know that we're still doing this. We're over here. Here we are. Russell and Hunter's the Brewmance. That guy right there is Rob Hunter. I'm Mike Russell. Thanks for hanging out with us, y'all. We'll see you on Friday nooner.